Blanca Rodriguez. Welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
Good and yourself, Elliot. So happy to be here.
I am glad to have you here and looking forward to diving into today's conversation. But before we do, can you give the listeners a bit of context about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes, absolutely. I'm the owner of Wounded Healer LLC, and under this umbrella, I wear many hats. I'm a licensed massage therapist for almost 19 years. I'm a certified canine massage therapist for 8 years as well. I'm a speaker, best-selling book co-author, life coach, and of course, I am a fitness instructor for 55 plus populations. I've been a professional dancer for over 30 years, but my focus is definitely health and wellness, no matter what age we are.
Amazing. Like you said, quite a few hats to wear. What took you on this path? Obviously, you mentioned dance has been part of your life for 30 years now. So I imagine that that's maybe what started your interest in kind of the health and fitness world, or at least the activity world. So is that all where it stemmed from, or where did it all come from?
Absolutely. I've been dancing. My mother says that I've been dancing since I was born. And I
Since you were
totally
in the
agree
womb.
with her. Yes, I totally agree with her. I've been every single kind of music that I would hear at home. My parents were avid music lovers. Everything from Argentinian tango, Puerto Rican salsa, and everything in between. I will dance it all. And that was definitely the rooting of my physical activity over the course of my whole life.
Yeah.
Nowadays, generations are a little different. They're more indoors people. I was outdoors all the time, running, jumping with the friends, and until nighttime when my mother would scream my name, "Hey, Blanca! Come on over, come home, it's time." So, yes, I've been doing physical activity my whole life, and it ain't any different right now as I age. It's so important. When we age is when it gets even more important to pay attention to this very important practice.
Absolutely. And what encouraged you to do this as a profession? Because of obviously there could have been the part where you're like, okay, I'm going to continue to maintain my physical activity. What made it such a passion that you were like, okay, I want to share this and help others?
Yes, absolutely. I've been always in the service industry, and my mission in life is to help others improve their quality of life. And one of the biggest parts of us as individuals having good quality of life is physical activity. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he used to say many thousands of years ago that with massage therapy, physical activity, good eating habits, fresh air, music, and rest, our bodies will stay in a healthy state. And there's
Mm.
nothing more true than this, that is for sure. My passion for dancing brought me to people inviting me to do auditions to dance professionally. From there, I became a professional dancer. I started teaching dance classes to little children, which was a blessing in my life. I love how children absorb every single thing that comes their way. And from
Mm.
there, this path chose me. I didn't choose it. When I moved to the US more than 20 years ago, I started to be a Zumba dancer. So with my Zumba dancing, I was invited to teach classes for communities 55 and older. And
Okay.
it was the biggest calling of my career, the most consistent one. I've been teaching 55 plus communities for almost 18 years, actually. And it's a joy to see how these individuals feel so much better every single time they either get out of a pool or they get out of a classroom. And definitely that is my calling, and it keeps on being my calling to this day. I'm so humble and grateful to have this kind of longevity being in this industry. That is for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you went from the younger generation all the way to a somewhat older generation, right? And
Yes.
it's an interesting set of people because, like you said, you have the younger people who are super curious, super open, they absorb everything. And then I'd say as we get into our middle age, like there's a lot of satisfaction there. And I think especially as people start to go into the position where they're going to start to be parents and everything along those lines. But in that 20, 30 age, I think there's a little bit like, well, I know that health's going to catch me up sooner rather than later, so I have to do it. Whereas I feel like when you get into the older generation, because of this is a deep dark secret, but no, I in the past I used to teach aqua aerobics to those over like 60 and 70. I had great fun
Hmm.
at the time. Obviously, before, because I was a young teenager, then I would resist it a little bit. And then I couldn't leave the class without having an amazing time because they were so receptive and they were so open. So it's interesting because of when they were younger, we're super receptive and open. Then we go through this phase of like, okay, well, we kind of have to exercise because it's something that we should do. And then it becomes something that when you get to the other side of it, you become grateful that your body can still do it. So it's an interesting transition. Did you find the same that, there's actually some similarities between the younger generation and the older generation, especially when it comes to the gratitude that they have around being able to move their bodies and exercise?
Absolutely, absolutely, so true. All generations that express interest or show interest in doing physical activity is it could be very similar but very different. The younger
Hmm.
generation, especially now, because I started teaching. I mean, I used to teach aerobics for the younger generation back in the 90s. That has been quite a bit ago when I was a younger woman, of course. And back in those days, the younger generation, they wanted to show their bodies and stroll through the gym. And yes, it was super cool, definitely. And I, in a way, yes, I related quite a bit to that part of my life, being with the younger generation, feeling all the energy that they have. That it's like, okay, I got the bull caught by the horns and I am going to conquer it all, versus the older generation that in a big way they have nothing to prove to anybody anymore, or at least
No.
that's what they say. And they love it's a whole different mindset when they go to group fitness. I have encountered many people that they are widowers, that they live alone, their kids don't live with them, they don't have a lot of socialization. When they're
Mm.
home alone. And let's say they're a beacon of hope. The way for them to cope with some kind of loneliness is to socialize, go to this social circle, which is doing some good physical activity, and of course, talking to all of their friends. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit of a difference there because they love to talk while they are in class, but they're highly interested in feeling better. And socialization is a way for them to actually feel much better with themselves. So that is the difference that I have seen, in the passing years, because in the fitness world, it's a whole different world from what it was back in the 80s when I started teaching versus what it is now in 2024. I mean, we are all subject to change, and change is a constant. And of course, our fitness routines, yes, they do change, and they have all changed for the better. That is for sure.
I can imagine you've seen a lot change over the past, 4 decades or so. So talk to me
Hmm.
about some of the changes that you have seen and some of the ones that are here for the better and some of the things that have maybe stood the test of time as well, starting all the way back in the 80s. I mean, physical activity, as you've mentioned, is probably one of those ones that's stood the test of time. But which ones do you think have been really consistent in their staying power and which have maybe come and go, which you think would either it's good that they've gone and you've seen the back of them, or you were like, maybe that should have stayed within the fitness industry?
Well, I can share with you this. I used to be an aerobics instructor when the aerobics craze started all those years ago. In comparison to the way fitness is now, it's a huge difference. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't miss aerobics class. I don't miss it for
Why not?
anything. And here in the Americas, the way that it was taught, it wasn't the best approach for conditioning our bodies. It really wasn't the best approach for warming up our bodies. The class will start with jumping, and you're not giving your body a chance to warm up, start
Hmm.
that cardiovascular motion going up in slowly but surely. Versus now, for example, I have done class of high intensity interval training. I find it fascinating how you do this high intensity workouts for a limited a limited amount of time, you rest it up a little bit, and you go for it again. I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating to do a Zumba toning class, for example. I've been doing Zumba toning for a very long time. And the way I start my classes is always on a little by little basis. Let's start warming up. Let's start moving our bodies in a little by little, because if I use the same approach from back in the 80s that it was jumping, 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 especially with 55 plus communities, it will hurt them.
Hmm.
It was just not the best approach. And I am so grateful to enjoy this kind of longevity as a teacher, because life is about change, and these changes has only been for the better. So thank you, 2024, for being here and the new approach to fitness, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think as we become more educated and the science continues to support new evidence to suggest that this could be something that's going to be advantageous. And obviously, the challenge with the health and fitness industry, which you've probably seen, is that there is an overwhelm of information. Before, there's probably a lack, and now there's probably a little bit too much. However, it's
Yes.
probably better to have too much than it is to have too little, right? Because then at least you can apply some critical thinking, apply what works for you, and then take away which doesn't, as opposed to a lack of information where you're literally just working on what exists as well. And I think that that's maybe a lot of what people find when they get to the age of 50 and above. And I would like to kind of talk from their perspective today and maybe go to someone who's maybe not really invested in health and fitness in their entire life. What advantages can someone above the age of 50 or 55 expect to see if they start working out, and where do they go with health and fitness when potentially, like I said, they were born in an era where there was very, very little information and maybe didn't really do too much about it, and now they're coming into a world where there's so much information and maybe it's extremely overwhelming to make a choice of what to do.
Yes, I cannot agree with you more on that one. But in my honest professional and personal opinion, the more informed we are about something, the better it is to understand, without a
Hmm.
doubt. In my massage therapy, for example, my massage therapy career here in the US, I have to do continuing education constantly in order to keep my licensing. And I never stop learning with my career. I absolutely love it. And with physical fitness is the same exact story. My message for my 55 plus people, I am going to be 59 years old myself. Our bodies are changing constantly from birth to passing, especially us women that we go through something called perimenopause and menopausal stages. Our bodies changes, our hormonal systems change, our muscle mass starts decreasing. There is no getting away from that one with
Hmm.
women. And for people that have never done any kind of physical activity before, start now. Anything is a good idea. How about you start by walking 15 minutes? If you have a dog, walk your dog. Walking is the simplest and best physical activity there is, in my opinion. Walking and swimming. And if you don't swim, walk around the pool. I was doing some research before I started doing aqua classes, and the more you go in circles, walking in circles, you can have some lymphatic drainage as you're walking in circles, and the pressure of the water is going against your body. And when you make that circle, you turn around and go against that circle, and right there is great physical activity. Anytime is a great time to start doing any kind of physical activity. And honestly, walking is my favorite kind of physical activity, because we go outside, we look at nature, we have better oxygenation in our bodies, it clears our mind, and it helps us even with great ideas, distressing. People that have anxiety, people that have depression, go outside. People of any age, do yourself a favor, go outside.
Yeah, I like that. And it's accessible for more or less everyone. Of course, there'll be maybe a few people who have some challenges. walking and moving. But I think, like you said, it's only 15 minutes. So most people can manage that. And it only has to be a few times a week. And it's a brilliant, brilliant place to start as well. And the
Hmm.
thing that I'm curious to hear about is you hear a lot about people in their 20s and their 30s who struggle for motivation. And obviously, the narrative as we get older is that it gets harder. There's a lot of people who say, oh, well, what's the point anyway? Maybe they're already married. Like you said, with the aerobics generation back in the 80s and 90s, everyone's like flaunting what they have. But when you get a little bit older, that becomes a little less interesting to you. Maybe you have not necessarily an unsupportive partner, but a partner that says, well, you know what, as we progress and we get age, as we age, I've done all the work of trying to stay healthy in my 30s, 40s, and 20s. Now I'm just going to be okay with being 10, 20, 30 kilos overweight because of
Hmm.
I've earned this, right? That seems to be a bit of a narrative. So
Yeah.
how can people who actually do want to make an effort with their health and fitness find the motivation to do that when they are working against some challenges that they wouldn't have had a couple of decades back?
Yes, absolutely. I can say, about people that not necessarily have the support when it comes to physical activity. I can say it from my own perspective and my own experience right now. I'm married to a wonderful man, and he is an amazing human being, but he has no interest on any kind of physical activity. He has a sedentary lifestyle. He has a very physical job, but when he comes home, he sits down, he wants to watch TV, and if we are looking for inspiration and motivation outside of ourselves to do something, it's just honestly, it's just not going to work out. It's going to be short lived, and it's not conducive to what we really want to do for ourselves. We got to do these things, and like anything in life, we got to do these things for ourselves because we know we are going to feel better, not for anybody else. And as we age, because yes, when I was in my 20s and 30s, oh my God, hard rock body, oh my abs. And after I gave birth, I keep on aging. I'm in my late 50s. The bodies change, but it's not about, I mean, in my opinion, my honest professional and personal opinion, it's not about how our bodies look in the outside. If I have a flabby tummy, what is important for me is how my muscle mass is in the inside. If we don't have good muscle mass to hold on to our skeletal structure, everything will fall apart. And
Mm.
my biggest advice to all our listeners out there is just because you see your body in a certain way, don't stop doing what you're doing, because physical activity is from the inside out. That's where the real benefit is, not from the outside in. And if you don't have any support from anybody, you're going to do this for yourself. Do it on your own. Go to a gym, do group fitness. And if you don't like to socialize with anybody and you have an animal at home, hey, here we go again. Outside is the best answer. And for people that have limited mobility, I have done many classes that are actually chair classes. I used
Mm.
to teach classes to people that were in wheelchairs at a medical facility, and they absolutely loved it. They felt better, their mindset was better, and they felt like life had a little bit more meaning because they could move even in a very complicated situation like being in a wheelchair. So there is no excuse whatsoever. You do this for yourself, not for anybody else.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And how did you make that transition from being very physically focused? You mentioned obviously you had two children and the body was changing, and obviously going through perimenopause and menopause as well. And I find that that is a very, very challenging stage of life to work through in the sense that you kind of have to go through this gentle acceptance. Okay, my body's going to work in a slightly different way now. I've worked with a few women who have gone through this, and there's this level of like, I don't necessarily want to let go of how my body was and performed and responded in the past, but I'm also not going to be oblivious to the fact that things are changing and I can't deny it, right? I feel it within myself, I feel it mentally, I feel it physically. The efforts that I put into the gym don't reflect so much in the same way as my physique anymore, and that becomes a little bit of a difficult period to navigate in the sense of like, well, I was doing, 4 sessions per week before and I was getting, let's say, 60% of an output. Now I'm doing 4 sessions a week and I'm only getting 35% of an output. And that sucks because I'm doing the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
So how did you manage that? Because like you mentioned, it has to come from within you. But a lot of our goals when we were much younger are aesthetic based. They were all more around how we look and how, basically how we feel within our clothes and everything along those lines. But like you said, it starts inside out. And it makes a lot of sense to focus on the fact that, okay, I need muscle mass because realistically, that's going to be the thing that keeps me standing at the end of the day. A lot of people think it's like, well, how my biceps look, but it's the thing that helps you get off the chairs or to reach up for the shelf or whatever that might be. But how did you make that transition? Because I think it's very, very difficult to just go from, I've been focused on my aesthetics for the past 20, 30, 40 years. And now I'm going to be focusing on something that's a little bit different. And I'm also not getting as much as I used to when I put all this effort in.
Yeah, definitely. I believe on good information. I'm a true believer that the more we adapt ourselves to these changes, the less harder the transition will be.
Mm-hmm.
As we age is unavoidable, is the natural course of things, of how we live our lives, of how our bodies keep on changing. I say about myself specifically, I'm high mileage. I have put a lot of work in. I have mistreated this body. I have abused this body, not only from my years in dancing, but I used to do a lot of yoga, a lot of handstands, and I'm a licensed massage therapist now. What happens when we are doing the same job for many, many years? Wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, handstands are non-existent in my life. I don't do down-facing dogs anymore because my hands get affected. I rather take care of and keep what I have than keep on pushing myself in this denial that, oh no, when I was 30 years old I could do this. I'm in my 50s now, I can do it too. That is not necessarily the case. When as we age, after we give birth, oh my goodness, did my body change after I gave birth, and it was unavoidable. What I did was do as much as possible pelvic exercises, because it keeps my insides, in the best possible condition there is. As we age, here we go with aging. Aging is unavoidable. We either age or else we die. So I'd rather keep on aging. And for all our listeners out there, don't stay lost in the sauce that in the past you used to be this way, you used to look this way, because we all age. I mean, my mother's 93 years old.
Wow.
Since I know my mother always has some kind of physical activity. She used to ride her bike, she used to walk with a group of people, and even in the senior center where she used to go, they will provide physical activity for all the seniors, people 80 plus. But the physical activity that it was provided for them, of course, is going to be low impact. Of course, it's going to be taking care of these seniors that they don't get hurt. Because if you try to do handstands and down-facing dogs at age 85, I think it's a big accident in the making, honestly. So the more awareness that we have, the more acceptance of ourselves, that aging is a natural process of things, that aging is unavoidable, the better mindset we will have with these changes in our physical activity routines. I work with a doctor in chiropractic. He's 47 years old. He's a very strong man. And we were just talking not long ago about how the level of weight training that he used to do is a world away from what it is now. And he feels the difference, and sometimes he gets frustrated, and I tell him, doctor, why are you getting frustrated when you know that these changes are unavoidable? So to all our listeners out there, please have some awareness, have a lot of awareness that these changes are unavoidable and aging is a reality. Definitely.
Awareness and compassion as well, right? And
Absolutely.
a level of
Self-compassion. Mm-hmm.
acceptance too, to recognize that, like you said, this is unavoidable and it's
Yes.
aging or death. And I think
Mm-hmm.
most people would, probably 99.9% of people would choose the aging route as well, even though sometimes we do end up resisting it. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
your mother, and you also mentioned you moved over to the US 20 years ago. Where are you originally from?
I am from Puerto Rico.
I'm interested to know the difference culturally between Puerto Rico and the US. I find that I travel a fair amount, and I find that in some places you find health and fitness particularly advanced, and in other places you find them maybe they're still stuck in the 90s or the 80s, for example. Where have you found Puerto Rico to be compared to the US, and how do you find that the way that you look after your health over there compared to how people look after their health in the States?
Well, in here in the US, unfortunately, there is a horrific epidemic of obesity. I believe that the US, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not the number one,
Mm,
and the number one nation in the whole planet on morbid obesity, it's like really up there.
yep.
My comparison to Puerto Rico is this. In the US, there is a problem that is big with sedentary lifestyles.
Okay.
People, they rather buy an expensive pair of shoes and eat frozen pizza from the supermarket. They rather buy expensive makeup and or an expensive bag, but buy hot dogs in the stand, $1 hot dogs. And that is how unstable the priorities are fitness wise here in the US. Yes, absolutely. There is plenty of help, there's plenty of places to go. But in Puerto Rico, I can tell you this, people are highly active. It's a very mountainous island and we are active, we are outside all the time, we love to socialize. There are places that they're high up there in the mountain. You have to leave your car all the way down there, walk for a quarter of a mile to that restaurant because you love it so much and the food is so darn good that it's totally worth it. Right there, before you get to the restaurant, you have physical activity. And when you are done in the restaurant, you're going to have physical activity too. So, in comparison, I could say that Puerto Rico is pretty ahead in terms of physical activity. There is
Mm,
much less obesity in the island than there is here in the US. Is something that is really, really startling and shocking because the help is always there. And we live in a nation here where being sick is the normal. Being, I mean, I don't know about in Europe how it is, but the commercials here, they inundate you. They overwhelm you with pills for this and that and that. Every single thing
mm,
in life, a pill will fix it. Now there's the craze of Ozempic. Ozempic is a medication that is for diabetes, I believe, and people are using it for weight loss because it's the quick fix. What are the consequences that our bodies are going to suffer on taking a drug that is that powerful, that has all of these side effects? People rather go to put up with side effects of horrible drugs doing liposuction. Oh my goodness, Elliot, with liposuction. People gain weight, they got a control, they get out of control, but then they want a quick fix. In liposuction, they think that is a quick fix. Let me tell you something. I have massaged many patients after liposuction and is horrendous, is a nightmare. It takes to these individuals 6 months after surgery to recover from liposuction. So, in my honest opinion, to all our listeners, please go to the natural resources, which is physical activity, rather than depend on a pill or on surgery to make this happen. Highly, highly recommended. But Puerto Rico, definitely, I think they're really ahead of the game when it comes to that from the U.S. Unfortunately.
It's interesting and it's good to know as well. And yeah, you do find there's massive cultural difference, even when you just then
Hmm.
said then you don't know what it's like in Europe. Well, it's interesting because if you go to the UK or if you go to Italy or if you go to France, it's all completely different. You know, we kind of summarize it as one continent, but it's actually very, very different, even if you just hop from country to country. Like you said, in terms of Puerto Rico and the US, like there isn't too much land that separates the two, but the approach is completely different as well. So it is
Absolutely.
interesting to know that as well. So if I put you in the position of being the president tomorrow, Blanca, what would be your guidance and your advice to kind of course correct in a sense? Because it sounds like the trajectory, I say this to health and fitness professionals all the time, and my listeners are probably fed up of hearing me say this, but I always ask them, when I speak to health and fitness professionals, I say, it looks optimistic when you're within the industry because you see people coming to you to want to improve their health and well-being. You see great examples of generational health being created by these parents getting in shape when they never were before. But then, obviously, when you take a look outside of your health and fitness bubble and your health and fitness industry bubble, you actually see that all the data suggests that things are getting worse and worse and things aren't actually moving in the right direction. So, with my typical question I always ask is like, well, what's the solution? How do you feel that we can get the trajectory into the direction that we want it to go in versus the direction it seems to be inevitably heading into?
I believe that is about awareness. And from the moment we are children, I think that is the rooting of the message right there.
Mm,
The great Socrates, he never had his students in a classroom sitting down all day long and the teacher being there, blah, blah, blah. Socrates used to teach outdoors while people were walking. He will walk with his students, and right there is when physical activity starts. I am not a teacher in that sense, and if the education was dependent on me, I will transform the whole thing around. The education system here, unfortunately, is really crooked and it's obsolete. And a lot of people just don't learn absolutely nothing that they could really take with them. I would educate kids from a very young age of how important physical activity, not only as children, but for their entire life existence. I think that is the big rooting right there. A lot of people have no idea how their bodies work. We are indoctrinated into everything is a quick fix. If you have a headache, drink that pill. If your foot is hurting, go to the foot doctor, go to the hand doctor. There's a doctor for every single part of our bodies when our bodies should be treated as a whole, not as separate entities. And giving education, raising awareness from the time we are children, I truly believe that that will be a tremendous help to create a better society, especially here in the US, where there is no awareness whatsoever for physical activity for these children. All they go to recreation for a little while, they play and straight back to the classroom to have a sedentary lifestyle. Oh, and the lunchroom, oh my goodness, with the lunches that are provided in public schools here, it is absolutely, it's something that I wouldn't give not even to my dog. To be very, very honest with you. Yes, absolutely. I would ask my kids when they were little, so what do you have on at the lunchroom today? Oh, mommy was discussing it was a dry burger with fries that they were done yesterday. It's like, oh my goodness. And that is how this society here is taught to have an unhealthy lifestyle from the moment kids are in school. So what I would do definitely, it will be transform that kind of education system into what it really should be. That is a fact.
and how did you navigate that with your children? Because obviously they would have gone through that system. I don't know what age they are now. Maybe they're still going through that system. So how did you mitigate some of the challenges that they went through? Because a transformation, it would be amazing to see, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Oh,
And
no, not
sometimes
at
we just
all.
got to focus. Yes, we have to focus on the people in front of us to help them through what situations are like, what circumstances, environment they're in to make it the most positive that they possibly can. So, what did you do to ensure that they didn't fall into that path of being sedentary and kind of being coached into the way that they are destined to be in the future if nothing
Hmm.
else changes.
So what I did for them, my daughter is 22 years old. My son is 26. They are adults now. What I did for them, the first thing that I did was send them to school with their own lunch done at home. That's the first thing I did. Secondly, I, as a parent, I will take him. I was a single parent. I would take him to the gym with me all the time. When I would do my classes, you're coming with me. So they got really, really used to having physical activity. When I would do
Mm.
water aerobics, when I do my aqua zumba classes, this gym was a gymnasium that it was for Olympians as well. They will train there. So there was a lot of good energy. It was the gym was part of the hospital, but there was a lot of good energy because there was not only Olympians, there were nurses, doctors, runners. I mean, it was like the whole shenanigans of different people with different goals and different kinds of awareness. I will take my kids with me and I will put them in the pool. It's like, you're going to go over here, enjoy the pool. And that is, I mean, they're water people. We're island people. So they love the water, and water
Mhm.
is obviously physical activity. So they were taught since they were little kids that, okay, the food in your school is crappy, but it doesn't mean that this has to be your lifestyle, because no, let's teach you from a younger age that there is something called veggies, that the vegetables not necessarily have to be gross if you prepare them in a good way, in a very Puerto Rican way, lots of sazon and spices, then you will get used to having a better lifestyle, being really, really more open to different kinds of food that actually will be fuel for your bodies, not poison for your bodies. So from a very young age, they learned this. And my daughter right now, she's an engineer, but she is a dancer as well. So definitely it has stayed throughout their life. So I'm very grateful about that. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think that's so important. I write these reflections on Instagram from time to time, and one of the messages that I had for a lot of people, because I have a lot of people who come through my door at 30, 40, 50, and I think it's amazing that they do. But one of the biggest advice I give to people who are not at that stage yet is to get your health and fitness in place and sorted early, because it's far, far easier to do it with the fundamentals of good habits. Even just like you said, you've got high mileage from all the things that you've put your body through. But imagine having that high mileage, but also with the awareness of like, okay, well, I also can do some mobility work to protect my body. I don't have to do high impact stuff all the time, you know? And you go through decades and decades of being in a good position with your health and well-being, good, healthy habits from the start. It's going to doesn't guarantee that you're going to keep those in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, but you're going to have a significantly better chance. And also, you can have a better impact on your future children if you choose to have them as well. So, I do like that message. And the one final thing I want to touch on with you, Blanca, today is massage therapy. We've touched on it, it's weaved into the conversation here or there, but why do you feel that that's particularly important, especially as we get older?
Massage therapy massage therapy is my favorite career. Definitely. I wear different hats, but massage therapy is a very, very powerful practice. It's very ancient. Since 3000 BC, massage therapy has been around.
Mm.
And in this amazing career that I love so much, I have seen many changes in a lot of people, and only for the better. Massage is the manipulation of soft tissue or muscle mass with the purpose of healing or relaxation. When our bodies are massaged, many good things happen to us. For starters, relaxation, de-stressing. Our hormonal systems feel better. That's why massage is so excellent with perimenopausal and menopausal women.
Mm.
Massage is
Good to know.
excellent for people that have auto accidents, fractures, post-surgical. Prenatal massage that's my favorite massage, is prenatal massage, because mom and baby, they feel the powerful effects of massage therapy, and it's a beautiful practice. I this is One of my biggest love is to provide massage therapy because I see firsthand the wonderful effects that not only physically but emotionally massage therapy provides. Right now I work at two rehab centers for drug addiction and alcohol abuse, and I see many patients in very chaotic situations, in a very
Hmm.
chaotic environment, people that OD'd and they were brought back,
Wow.
people in the most terrible situations. And it doesn't, the worst thing is that it doesn't discriminate with age, social stature, or who they are. It just happens. And many of them, they have no idea of how good they feel after a 10-minute massage. The effects of massage therapy are infinite. They are long term. They make our bodies feel better. Emotionally, we feel better. It's excellent for people with depression, PTSD, anxiety, cardiac situations, lymphatic situations. Cancer patients, post cancer patients. I have worked with all of them. I had a patient that he had Parkinson's disease, so he was shaking, and it was a beautiful thing, Elliot, to see how the shakes will just subside, calm
Mm.
down, because his body will calm down. I have had people with Alzheimer's, dementia. My mother has frontotemporal dementia, and when I go to Puerto Rico to see her, I always massage her. And it's a beautiful thing to see how even her speech improves in that
Wow.
moment in time because of the wonderful, powerful benefits of massage. Do you get massage?
I don't as often as I should. I
Okay.
have a couple of times in my life, but no, I it's probably one of those areas that I overlook, to be completely honest as well. But it's insane because of anyone you've spoken to will tell you that I don't think I've heard anyone say, aha, I hate getting massages. Or maybe some people have particular issues with like being touched and all these other things and hygiene and stuff like that. But I rarely hear anyone say, like I didn't feel the benefit from that or I came out feeling worse. Yeah, it's also one of those things that we don't actually prioritize, including myself. Why do you think people avoid doing as much as they could do?
People let massage pass them by for either I don't have time for that.
Mm,
The biggest one is I don't have time for that. Or I had a bad experience. I had a massage once and I had a bad experience and I never did it again. Wow. In the state of Florida alone, I live in the state of Florida. In this state alone, there's almost 30,000 massage therapists.
wow.
Every single massage therapist has a different way of practicing. We're all different. There is no such thing as two massage therapists doing the same exact thing. It's
Mm,
just not true. What I would suggest in the world of massage therapy, if your massage therapy doesn't ask you any questions, beware. Us massage therapists, part of our practice is make sure that we do no harm. And how do we do no harm is by asking questions. How are you feeling? Is the pressure good? Do you have anything that you need to say? Do you have surgeries, auto accidents, falls, fractures? It's very important to have that open communication with the massage therapist so the massage therapist can tailor a service to
hmm.
your needs, not the typical generic massage, just lay on the table, I'll do whatever and we're done. It's like, no, the better, the more questions are asked, the better your massage will be. And Elliot, I highly recommend that you get massages because your body will feel better. This is fuel for our bodies. This is maintenance for our bodies. That's why I not only provide massage therapy, but I get massaged twice a month. And it's very important for my good overall health. Is very important
Mm,
to maintain these hands up and running and working, not only for my profession but life in general. What I
yeah.
have I definitely keep, and massage therapy is the best medicine for prevention. How important is prevention to avoid so many things in life that we either do on purpose or not? And prevention is the biggest help we can have.
Yeah, and when you were talking then, I was just thinking of another resistance that people might have, and it's that it feels too much like a luxury. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people look for, okay, I just need to cover my necessities. Okay, I need to go to the gym because of, obviously physical activity is necessary in order for me to do that. But I think it's seen as a luxury. It's kind of a similar camp to physiotherapy as well. It's like, well, if I have to see my physio, I'm gonna go see my physio. But if I have a little nickel, I'm not gonna get that touched up because of, again, it's a luxury. It's a thing that's going to cost me time. It's going to cost me financially, and it's
Hmm.
also, yeah, like it goes in the luxury category, whereas the gym, I think, can go a little bit more into the practical. I need to, in some people it is luxury, but in many ways a lot of people are like, well, it's something that people with a lot of time do, or a lot of leisure. And I think that's also, and maybe even they don't feel like they deserve to give them to themselves. No, if we're speaking about
Yeah.
maybe mums and stuff along those lines too, like sometimes they're just like, well, actually no, I could prioritize my children or something along those lines. I could be doing chores within this time, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Massage therapy in many ways is like, oh, that's the last resource. I mean, I don't need that. I just have a little headache, but nah, I'll have I mean, here in the US, here we go with everything. A pill fixes everything in according to them. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
have a little headache, but nah, no, I'll just wear it off. I'll work it out and I'll do some stretchings and I'll be fine. Well, this is the thing. We live in a world that we have a phone. And in the phone world, I can tell you this, almost 100% of the people, and I have found myself doing the same thing, we live a lifestyle of this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happens with this horrific posture. The pressure that we put on our necks just because of the way our heads are, this pressure alone is 30 to 40 pounds of pressure on our necks. I was doing research about it because I wanted to inform people about, I mean, I have my phone neck patients. Phone neck. What do you do? Do you look at your phone a lot? Oh, I'm working from my phone all the time. Well, there you go. That's why you have chronic headaches. That's why you have migraines. That's why your shoulders are so spastic, because the shoulder, this is just not a little muscle that is there only. The shoulder, this muscle here attaches to the base of your skull and attaches to your scapula. So everything in between is going to be affected. I mean, besides the high use that we give with moving ourselves all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all day, every single day. So this is one of the reasons, just one of the reasons why massage therapy should not it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a priority. Back in my day, before I became a massage therapist, I thought it's like massage therapy. Well, that is a luxury. You go to the spa. That's for people that are high end. Till I became a massage therapist and I started working in the medical industry. I'm a medical massage therapist. This I didn't choose it, it chose me, thankfully. And I see firsthand how needed massage is for sports people, moms that have a very high stress lifestyle with her kids, the job, people that work in corporate jobs, people that are traveling a lot for their jobs. Traveling is not easy. Traveling can be really, really stressful. And definitely that's when massage comes into play and is so needed. I could tell you this, for people that don't like to be touched by strangers, because that's a big one. People don't like to be touched by strangers. What is this person going to do? Why is this person asking me to take my clothes off and go underneath a sheet? I don't want to do that. There's the option of people being fully clothed and being massaged. I do it every single day in the rehab centers. We're all in the same room, and 10 minutes of a massage, I promise you all out there that it will change your vision and your mindset of what massage therapy really is, which is a huge necessity because it'll keep us feeling better. And how beautiful it is to feel good rather than
Mm-hmm.
feeling miserable all the time. It makes a whole difference in our body, mind, and spirit. When we don't feel good, it is unavoidable. We will get stressed out, we will get depressed, we will feel the pressures of, I feel like crap, but I still have to do this. We are not 100% productive when we don't feel good, and this is when massage therapy can be such It can be such a great medicine, and it has nothing to do with a pill or a side effect. The side effect that you're going to receive is that you feel better. How beautiful is that?
I would say in some ways it's even easier than exercise, right? You just show up and you come out and you feel amazing. So I think
Exactly.
there's definitely a lot of merits to going. So Blanca, this has been a fantastic conversation. I want to wrap up with a final couple of questions. And the first one I have for you is, what impact do you want to make on the world with the work that you do?
The impact that I want to make in the world is to help people improve quality of life, no matter what age they are. That's very important.
Very nice. I like that. And where's the best place for people to find you if they want to keep up with the work that you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. I have a website that it just went live yesterday. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And it's
Congratulations.
www.woundedhealer.us. You can find me on Facebook, every single social media platform. I am around. I'm in Instagram, Facebook. I have 2 pages in Facebook. I am in TikTok. I have YouTube channel, Wounded Healer Blanca E. So yes, yes, come on over. I have a lot of good things to share with the world, and definitely quality of life, improving quality of life will make a difference on anybody, no matter what age we are.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes below, Blanca. But thank you so much for your time today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Elliot, for having me. What an honor it was to be here.